What's going on, guys? Welcome to my channel. I'm John the Video Guy, and in this video tutorial I'm going to be showing you guys an easy way to create simple slideshows inside Premiere Pro. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to show you is actually going to be resizing your photos. You might not have to do this, but it is a good thing to consider because if you try to make slideshows in Premiere Pro with large photos, it's going to take a lot longer to render out. So if you want to learn how to resize your photos quickly using a batch action, feel free to watch this part of the video. If you already have your photos ready to go, feel free to skip forward. Time codes are down below. So the easiest way to resize your photos quickly is to use an action inside Photoshop. So I have my photos that I want to resize in a folder, and it's called Originals. And what you'll want to do is create another folder called Resized. And this is where the new resized photos are going to live. So to get the action started here, we're going to click on our first photo and open with Photoshop. And the first thing you'll want to do is make sure you go to your Actions window. So go to Window Actions, and this will pop up. You'll have your default actions, and what you'll want to do is create the folder icon to create a new action. So we'll rename this Resize, and we'll click OK. Next, you'll want to click this button to create a new action, and we'll name this 1920 pixels because we're resizing it to 1920 pixels, and then you'll click record. Now this is important. From here on out, it's going to record your actions, and when you reference this action later, the actions from this point forward are going to be applied to all your photos. So in this case, we want to resize the photo, so go to Image, Image Size, and we'll change the width to 1920. And this will be the size of our video essentially. So basically what it's going to do is resize every photo to be 1920 pixels. Click OK. Now we'll resize the photo here. Alright, so the next thing we'll do is save it. So go to File, Save As. And we'll save it in that resize folder. And click OK. Click Save and click OK. Next, you'll have to close the file, so just click X, and then go to Window Actions, and then click Stop. And this will stop the recording procedure. And now all you have to do to apply the same thing to all the other photos is go to File, Automate, Batch. Then make sure under Set you have Resize, and Action you have 1920. And then under Source, click Choose. And then you'll want to make sure all your photos are in that folder that you want to resize. The originals, click Choose. And then under Destination, click Choose, and then make sure you have Resized selected and click Choose, and then click OK. And then this will batch convert all of those photos. If we go into our Finder, you'll see that all of our photos are resized. If you scroll down, you'll see 1920. They all start with 1920 at least. This will save Premiere Pro and you a headache if you are experiencing slow render speeds inside Premiere Pro. And you still have your originals just in case you need them as well. Alright, so now let's get started. Now that we have our resized photos, let's go into Premiere Pro. We'll create a new project by clicking the Create New Project button. And we'll rename this Slideshow. And we'll click Browse. Click Create, and we'll click Choose, and click OK. Next, we'll import our photos. So we'll go to File, Import, and we'll import our resized photos. Click Import. Okay, so one of the things you'll want to do maybe before you add them into a new sequence is actually change the set to frame size inside your Premiere Pro preferences. This will make sure that when you drag in new photos that they resize to the actual size of the sequence. This is helpful, especially if you didn't do the last part, and even if you did the last part as well, this will help you out as well. You don't have to go back in and resize each photo. So to do that, go to Premiere Pro Preferences and then go to Media. And then under Default Media Scaling, you'll want to make sure Set to Frame Size is selected. By default, it should say None, and if you change it to Set to Frame Size, this will happen for you, and I'll show you what this does in a few seconds here. Click OK, and then we'll make a new sequence. So go to New Item, Sequence, If you're under digital SLR, 1080p 30 frames is good. We'll rename this Slideshow and click OK. And what we'll do is untwirl the Resize photo bin, select all of our photos, and drag them to the timeline. Now if we zoom in here, for example, this photo, we resized it to 1920 wide, but it's a lot taller than it is wider. So automatically Premiere Pro, by doing that, scaled it down to 37.5. And it did that for all photos. So they all fit perfectly inside your sequence. So next we're going to retime the photos. So simply click and drag to marquee select all of your photos, or you can hit A on your keyboard and click on the first photo in your sequence if you have hundreds of photos to select all of them, and then right click on your photos and then go to speed and duration. And then change the duration to your desired duration. So I'm going to change it to maybe 8 seconds. And then make sure that you check the box next to ripple edit and click OK. This will change all of your photos to that new time. Okay, so next let's add a transition to these photos. Maybe we blur or we cross dissolve them. Now there is a function in Premiere Pro that will save you a lot of time. If you want to add the same transition to all your photos, you can simply marquee select all of them and hit Command D or Control D on a PC, and this will add the default transition to all your clips. So you'll notice that we have a default transition already. But say if you want the default transition to be a little bit longer, and maybe you don't want the cross dissolve, maybe you want like a wipe or something, you can actually change these settings. I'm going to show you how to do that here. So we'll hit Command Z to undo that, or edit undo. And then to change the default transition time, what you can do is go to Premiere Pro Preferences here and go to Timeline. And you'll notice the first option here is Video Transition Default. So say if you wanted the transition to be maybe a second, 2 seconds, you can change how many frames it is. So say if we want a 2-second animation transition, you can change it to 60 frames. You can even change it to seconds and do 2 seconds if that's easier, and then click OK. And then also as well, to change the default transition, say if you want a wipe instead of a cross dissolve, what you can do is search for wipe, and under video transitions, wipe, you can right click on this and select set selected as default transition. And now if we marquee select all of these clips by clicking and dragging and we hit Command D, you'll notice that we have a nice wipe that's 2 seconds long now. So feel free to change the settings to your desired taste. You can go through and select, the type of transition you want to apply to your own slideshow. But that's the way to, change the time and also the default. And if you have hundreds of photos, it's going to save you a lot of time by changing it to the default transition. All right, so next what we're going to do is actually nest these clips. So we'll marquee select all of them, right click and go to nest. And what this essentially does is put all these clips into its own sequence. And we'll name this Slideshow Nested and click OK. And we'll see we have this green item, and if we double click on it, you'll see that opens up into a new sequence. So this is basically its own sequence. And what we'll do is duplicate this. So if you hold down Option on a Mac or Alt on a PC, you can click and drag so that we have a new instance of this sequence in our slideshow sequence. There's a lot of sequences going on. But basically we have a duplicate of the original photo sequence. And what we'll do is we'll notice that there's black behind this sequence here. What we can do is click on this bottom layer and inside Effects Controls, scale this up a little bit. Maybe we search for a blur and we blur it out. This is a common slideshow technique. We'll just click and drag it, go to Effects Controls, and under the Gaussian blur setting, we'll change it to maybe 300 pixels. Make sure Repeat Edge Pixels is on. To dim this layer, background layer a little bit, what we can do is add a black video. So if we go to File, New, Black Video, this basically creates a just simple black solid type of layer. And what we can do is click on it, and inside effects controls, we can bring down the opacity a little bit. And we can bring down this top layer if you want to resize it a little bit so it doesn't fill the whole frame. So there you go. All right, so lastly, guys, let's animate these photos a little bit. You know, right now there's not a lot of movement, so an easy way to do this is by just clicking on the top layer and animating the controls inside effects controls. So maybe we want to push in and push out a little bit. If you click the stopwatch next to scale, this will enable the parameter to be keyframed. And if we remember when we retimed our photos, each photo changes every 8 seconds. So maybe halfway through, we have it push in a little bit and push back out. So half of 8 seconds is 4. So we'll change the timeline here to 4. This will move the playhead to 4 seconds forward. And maybe we push in a little bit. Maybe we change the scale to 92. And then we'll go to the 8-second mark. So we'll type in 8. This will move the playhead to 8 seconds. And we'll go back to, I believe it was 86. And you can use these arrows to go back and forth between your little keyframes here. And what we can do is select these, and to make it a little bit smoother, we can right click and change it to Bezier. Bezier. But what this does is makes it a little bit smoother coming in and out of those keyframes. And what we'll do is marquee select these, go to edit, copy. And what we can do is just hit Command V, and this will paste those keyframes. And we can keep going forward here and keep pasting it until you have all of your photos animating. This might take a little while if you have hundreds of photos. And now, once you've done that and we play it back, you have a nice zoom in and zoom out transition for your photos. So that's it for this tutorial, guys. I hope you'll learn some things inside Premiere Pro. You'll notice a lot of the things that was covered in this tutorial were about the Premiere Pro preferences. If you want to see all of the settings I adjusted for my videos, I did actually make another tutorial video going all the optimized preferences that I've changed to suit my video editing needs inside Premiere Pro. I'll link that right up here if you want to check it out and get some ideas of the things that you can change for your own projects. Feel free to go watch that video. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.